All right, so now we're going to transition here and take a look inside the Amazon Ads console at a couple different features that you can leverage to more effectively manage your budgets, to spot campaigns that have opportunity for additional sales, additional spend, and just some different tools that are available to you with inside the console. So first things first, we're going to check out the budgets tab. So the budgets tab is really good for helping you identify how long throughout the day or how often throughout the day your campaigns are running out of budget, where there's opportunity for you to extend those budgets, capture additional sales, more impressions, more visibility, things like that. So we're going to take a look inside this. So pretty straightforward. Some of the unique features within inside this budget tab are the average time in budget column. So this is what we're going to be referencing quite a bit. We also have our recommended budgets. And then we have some estimations on our missed sales, missed impressions, missed clicks from not having sufficient enough budgets to support the traffic and demand that's available for the keywords and targets that are inside of this campaign. So initially, when utilizing the budgets tab, we can leverage a lot of filters to help narrow our search down to specific campaigns, groupings of campaigns that we want to look at. So I may start just by filtering down to a product category like we have here, creatine. So all of my campaigns that are containing the name creatine inside of them are going to get pulled into the search. We'll be able to quickly look at all of those. So these are all, the same product category. Maybe we're just doing a little bit of analysis across some different product categories that we're advertising. The next thing I'm going to look for is just to enable this filter for active status. So we just want to make sure all those campaigns are enabled. These are regularly managed campaigns, things that we're actually interested in extending budgets on. Now from here, we've pretty well limited the number of campaigns that we're actually looking at. So we narrowed our search from hundreds of campaigns down to 19, looking at a subset of our account here. Next thing we're going to look for is we're going to try to find campaigns where our ACoS targets or where our ACoS is below our actual targets. So we have additional room to spend there within our target margins, and we could potentially extend those, capture more sales at our targets. So the first thing I would look for is, number one, you need to have identified your target ACoS. You can see inside this campaign name, I have a 30 at the end just to signify what the target ACoS is for this individual campaign. So that way, I can quickly identify what the targets are for this campaign, and I can add an additional filter. So let's look at campaigns that have an ACoS of less than 30. We could do less than or equal to 30 or close to 30, depending on your thresholds or willingness to spend additional dollars. So you could mess with those filters and get it narrowed down to just the right campaigns. And then, one of the most important factors is actually setting what date range you're going to be analyzing. So for this example, I've just picked the last 14 days, pretty relevant for us. And we can see that these campaigns as a whole are in budget 97% of the time, meaning that there's not a whole lot of additional budget that we could add to these campaigns to add additional spend. These are sufficiently budgeted in most cases for the totality of all 14 of these campaigns. But as we go through here, and we can filter by average time and budget to get we can sort those from least to greatest, so that way we can see where and which campaigns are not in budget most of the time, which ones are running out of budget. So this is in budget 63% of the time. So 63% of the day on average across this 14-day date range, we have been spending. That other, whatever that percentage is what we're, missing out on, and we could potentially extend budgets. So we have our recommended budgets that Amazon's providing, saying, hey, this is what we think you could potentially spend. We don't necessarily have to go with additional budgets. This is more so just a tool for helping identify and find those opportunities for us to add additional budget. And we can incrementally do that over time if we want to. Keep tabs on specific campaigns that we're trying to scale. Maybe these campaigns are not campaigns that we're interested in scaling. This one in particular is an old campaign, a legacy campaign that maybe we're just actually phasing out, and we're not really trying to add additional budget here. So we got to take some additional context into consideration there. But here's an example. We're at a 29% ACoS over this 14-day period. We're in budget 95% of the time. Not a ton of additional spend available to us, but maybe we just kind of incrementally increase this up, inch this up a little bit, add a couple $100 more a day for that, just to make sure that it's sufficiently budgeted. Maybe we can get that up to 100% of the time. So it's important just to keep in mind the concepts we talked about in the last lesson about how budgets are more of a restrictor, not necessarily a catalyst for increasing spend. There are scenarios where increasing your budgets can be a catalyst for additional spend. And a lot of times it's in these types of scenarios where you're running out of budget early in the day. So there's not enough budget to support that campaign spend based on the bids and the settings and everything that you have set up throughout that day. So there is opportunity for additional spend. And in those scenarios where you're not in budget, 100% of the time, there is additional impressions, additional sales, additional availability for delivery within those campaigns. So we use this and these filters to help narrow our search down, find the right campaigns. We can also do it from a total account perspective and, look at things differently. But I personally like to kind of chunk things down and look at specific campaigns and take into account all the different contexts and factors that could be at play within this particular account. Maybe, these are more auto campaigns. We don't necessarily want to have these budgeted too aggressively for this account right now. It's not necessarily what we're focused on for this product group. So maybe these we don't necessarily want to increase, but we could. These are at target ACoS. They're not in budget very much. Now, adding additional budget to these, if we were to crank these budgets up to, $100, $200, there's potential that we could spend quite a bit with those increased budgets, because these are running out of the low budget that they have set pretty early in the day. So there's a lot of available impressions that we're missing out on for several of these campaigns. So the budgets tab is really good for helping us narrow and identify those different campaigns where we have additional opportunity to spend, where we can increase budgets, and those tweaks can go a long way in helping us drive efficient sales. So we're looking for those campaigns that are capping out early, that are hitting our targets, that our bids are dialed in. We can extend those budgets and capture additional sales. So budget tab, super helpful for spotting those types of things within your account. Now, we talked a little bit about portfolios in the last segment, so wanted to take a second and just go through that. So we'll transition over here to portfolios, and you can see I have these campaigns within the account grouped up into all of these individual categories. So if we were to click into one of these portfolios, we could see that all of the campaigns we were just looking at live inside this one portfolio. So, we have that campaign level budget that we talked about, but there's also portfolio level budgets that we can look at. So we can see that the status of this portfolio is delivering. There's no budget cap set, but we can come in here and modify that and get a little more dialed in at maybe a specific portfolio budget level. So for example, let's say you have a new product launch, and you have a set of campaigns that you're going to be launching for that product, and you have a set budget. In some cases, you have a monthly budget or just a set budget that you're willing to launch with that you don't want to exceed. So you could throw all of those campaigns into a budget or to a portfolio, set a budget cap for that portfolio, and then you could change the settings. So the date range, you can set to a specific time frame that you want the budget that you have set to end and expire. You can also set a recurring. So if it's like a monthly budget that you want to set for a specific set of campaigns, you can set that. And then you can have it end or never end and just renew every single month. And that's like kind of your consistent settings that you don't want to exceed. So you have that capability to set both the campaign level budgets to prevent exceeding certain levels of spend on an individual campaign. Then you can group up those campaigns into portfolios and then limit the spend across all of those campaigns collectively and limit and cap those budgets there. And then the final thing that I wanted to dive into with you is just the one other lever that you have here, and it's only available in Seller Central. It's the overall sponsored products budget cap. So this allows you to cap your sponsored product campaign spend to a certain daily level. This would prevent your sponsored product campaigns from spending over a certain amount on any given day. You obviously have these settings here as well that give Amazon additional permissions to spend up to 100% more than your average daily budget, or up to 25% of your average daily budget. Unfortunately, you cannot turn these things off at this point in time. So these are set regardless. So I typically just go with this lower 25% amount, and it seems to work pretty well as long as I stay in close touch with things. So this is a campaign or a account level setting that would restrict that sponsored product spend. So it's still going to spend on your sponsored brands and sponsored displays. So you'd have to manage those from a portfolio or campaign level. But yeah, so that is a quick tutorial, a quick rundown of the budgeting settings and budgeting capabilities within the Amazon Ads console. Feel free to leave any questions that you have down below, and we'll be sure to get back to those.